parallel war, parallel conflict or fight on the part of African Americans to secure their freedom. And June 19th is just one of many moments in in American history. African American history requires that we reflect upon our national narrative, and to think about how the national narrative is one of triumph, is one of victory, is one of progression. And what the African American narrative is not, it doesn't quite fit into that national narrative. So when we incorporate the lives and experiences and the history of African Americans into that broader American narrative, it challenges us to reflect upon that narrative of progression. And much of the experience of African Americans in this country has not been a positive one, has not been a joyful and a happy one. So it requires that we all reflect upon that part of our history, and a part of our history that makes us uncomfortable, that causes discomfort. And I think that's one of the reasons why many people are resistant and have long been resistant to the incorporation of African American history and African descended history into the broader American history curriculum. I would hope that that lesson didn't start with Juneteenth, of course, but would talk about Juneteenth as a really important moment in which African Americans have struggled for freedom, have struggled for legal recognition and equal treatment, and had the government respond in a positive way. Because what the Civil War was, of course, is effort. It was a war of brothers, as they say. But what historians often highlight, particularly historians of African Americans, African American experience highlight, is that it was also a war of African American making. So when Union soldiers are fighting Confederate soldiers, that's one war. But African Americans are actively on the ground, seizing their freedom, running away, fighting for their freedom, even enlisting in the Union Army to fight for their freedom. So there's always this parallel war, parallel conflict or fight on the part of African Americans to secure their freedom. And June 19th is just one of many moments in in American history when the federal government recognizes African American humanity and African American freedom and emancipation and liberty. It's a process whereby our children learn who's important, they learn who's valuable, and they learn whose lives matter. And when African American experiences are not incorporated into their everyday education, they learn, whether we want to acknowledge that or not, they learn that certain lives are more valuable, certain experiences are worthy of their time, are worthy of their attention, and by extension, certain people are worthy of their time, worthy of their attention, worthy of their love and affection and care and concern. And so I think by excluding African Americans from that narrative, you create an entire generation that, but whether we want to believe it or not, don't see the issues that African Americans experience on a daily basis.